Tuesday, August 7th, 2018, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning I'm going to talk about how the vampire Squid, aka Goldman Sachs, wants your cryptos. Yes, and I'll go into further details after I've looked at the market. And I'll also have a look at what's happening in Italy in terms of the new government, their bond market, which a few months ago or just about 6 weeks ago was in trouble. We had some trouble last Friday, so I'm going to cover that again. And also the sanctions on Iran that were activated. Part of the sanctions were activated at midnight New York time today, and what that has done to the Shanghai Energy Exchange, the International Energy Exchange. I'll cover the Petro yuan a little bit, and I'm not surprised what's happened there. Before though going into the giant squid, vampire squid, and cryptos, I'm gonna have a look at what we're doing this morning. It's 8:13 London time. So right now, spot gold is up 5, which is a pleasant result considering what we've seen lately. It's at 12.1270. The low has been 12.0650 and the high 12.14. So we're near the highs, up 0.5%. Silver is up 14, or just under 1% at 15.43. High's been 15.46 and the low 15.24. The Dow's up 65 at 25,567, up a quarter. S&P futures is up just under 5 points at 28.55. And the NASDAQ 100 future, excuse me, is up just over 1/4% at 74.59. Currencies, we're seeing the pound still fairly weak. We're now under 130 cable, 129.63, up 20 pips. I think the low yesterday was around 129.20. So not looking good, the chart of the pound against the dollar. Euros rebounded a little bit, up 1/4% at 115.76. And the dollar is marginally weaker against the yen, 111.32. In terms of other currencies, the yuan, the dollar's down 1/4% against the yuan at 684.70. And crude, WTI crude is at 68.66, up 0.4%, right near the highs. Let's have a quick look at the Petro yuan and the sanctions that were activated at midnight tonight, New York time, against Iran. The oil sanctions, of course, will be activated in November, but right now, Iran cannot deal in US dollars. So it's just as good as saying they can't sell their oil in dollars. So that's why this morning we've had a limit up on the September contract in the International Energy Exchange in Shanghai. Volume has been fairly high, 215,000 lots, and they had a limit up. So that's the consequence of this. Iran now will be forced to sell most of its oil at the Chinese exchange, and they will get yuan for it. They will be able to, of course, convert that yuan to other currencies and even to gold, even though the sanctions that were activated overnight in the US say that Iran can't deal in gold. But I'm not sure how the Americans can stop the Chinese and the Iranians dealing in gold. So that's very interesting. Now to the vampire Squid and Goldman Sachs. And I'm doing this because a lot of people in the crypto markets are very young, and time goes by. I've been around for a while, and some of them might not know about Goldman Sachs. And the reason I'm doing this is because I got a notification. I have a Seeking Alpha app on my iPhone, and I got this notification yesterday, and it says Goldman Sachs considering offering custody for crypto funds. Bloomberg. And I read it here. It says, Goldman Sachs is considering a plan to offer custody for crypto funds, Bloomberg reports, citing people familiar with the matter. Under such a service, Goldman would hold the virtual currencies on behalf of funds, safeguarding, I put that in quotes, them from rogue attacks. That's rich coming from Goldman Sachs, isn't it? An offering from a firm as established as Goldman would pave the way for more investors to get into the asset class. No decision has yet been made and no timeline has been set for when the bank would offer such services. So first of all, I wanted to say, who are these rogue players? If you look back in '08, the investment banks, Wall Street, City of London, they were rogue players, right? So how is Goldman Sachs now not a rogue player anymore? And I'm going to go through a few articles and a few things that proves to that Goldman Sachs is not really to be trusted. And am I saying that they're totally corrupt? No, but you need to be careful. And will this affect you directly? Do you guys have an account with Goldman Sachs? No, but it could affect let's say, a mutual fund or a crypto fund you invest in. They might have all their cryptos with Goldman Sachs. So there's so much literature about what Goldman Sachs has done in the past. And the other point I wanted to make, the whole point of the crypto currency movement is to get away from the corrupt banking system of Wall Street. So this is in itself is contradictory, in my opinion. So I'll just go over a couple of, one is an article that is really famous. And as I said, it's from 9 years ago, though. So a lot of you might not even have heard of it. And it was in Rolling Stone magazine by a guy called Matt Taibbi. And it's called The Great American Bubble Machine. And it's all about Goldman Sachs. This was written in 2009. And he coined the phrase, the vampire squid, Goldman Sachs. So I'll put a link to this article below in the description. Basically, it says the Great American Bubble Machine, from tech stocks to high gas prices, Goldman Sachs has engineered every major market manipulation since the Great Depression, and they're about to do it again. Could this be positive news for cryptocurrencies, the fact that Goldman Sachs wants to get involved? Maybe, but you need to be careful. Maybe they want to create another bubble, and that would be a crypto bubble. And if you're in it already, you could do well. But you need to be very wary of where your money goes. A crypto fund. What could Goldman Sachs do, you might ask? Well, they could use the cryptos that they hold for a fund. They could use that to lend it out. They could make money off it. They could hypothecate it many times as custodians of these cryptos. You never know. But I highly recommend people read this, The Great American Bubble Machine, so you know a little bit more about Goldman Sachs. And the other thing I'd like to point out is not an article, but a movie that many of you probably have seen. It's called The Big Short, and it's from 2015. And it shows how these investment banks on Wall Street and the City of London operate, especially Goldman Sachs. The main character of this movie was a fund manager called Dr. Michael Berry. And he was the guy who thought of going short the housing market. And he did that through a credit default swap. Goldman Sachs wrote him the contract. It was the first bank he went to see. And then when the whole market was unraveling and that credit default swap should have been worth a lot more, Goldman Sachs would not make a proper price. They would not pick up his calls so he could take some profit on the position. So you need to watch this as well just to see how these banks operate. And am I saying don't put your money in a crypto fund that has custody with Goldman Sachs? No, but you need to be aware of it. I'm trying to warn people about it. So yeah, I have a little story as well. When I worked in the city as a futures and options broker, a colleague of mine who I used to work closely with, we went out with a client, big corporate client from Europe, went out for dinner, and we're talking to them, and we said, oh, what have you done today? And they said, well, we went to see so-and-so other banks. We went to see Goldman Sachs. And this was before 2007-8, and I said to them, wow, you went to see Goldman Sachs, you better be careful with them. And they looked at me as if I was a little bit weird. I said, you better watch out with them. They have a long history. And I don't think they got hurt by their relationship with Goldman Sachs, but you can see how what happened in '08. You can see, I remember listening to the testimony, Lloyd Blankfein, CEO of Goldman Sachs, in Congress, when they're grilling him about the fact that they're selling these securities to their clients, and the other side of the coin, they're calling it shitty securities. So you need to be careful. Looks like the giant squid or vampire squid is coming after your crypto. So my recommendation is keep it in your hard wallet. Try not to keep it on exchanges as well. Only go to exchanges when you want to make a transaction. But after the transaction, put it back in your hard wallet. Keep it safe. And never give away your private key, of course. Italy. I did a video on Friday, but I was out most of the day. So I didn't follow the markets very carefully. So I read yesterday this article on Zero Hedge. Italian Treasury intervenes to buy bonds for third time since May crash. So Italian yields spiked quite a bit on Friday, and then they came off yesterday and late on Friday as well. And this article just goes to show how the Italian Treasury, which is basically one of the biggest debtors in the world, they're intervening to keep their own debt under control. That just goes to show there's no confidence. Investors have no confidence in Italian paper, and that the Treasury itself is borrowing money to buy its own debt. That's really that's a really red flag in my opinion. And why is this coming back now about Italy? Well, because they're going to start working on a budget after August. A lot of these politicians in Europe and everywhere, they go on for like long holidays in August. They don't work that much, do they? So when they come back in September, they start working, and that's when a lot of the troubles start in the markets. So they're supposed to start their new budget, the new government, in the autumn or fall, and that could create more problems for the markets. So Italy not out of the woods, the UK is not out of the woods. We got Brexit, and the vampire squid is out there, so watch out. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, share it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And you can also follow me on Steemit, DTube, and on Twitter. If you like to contribute to the channel or donate, you can go down in the description. There's some links. I have a store as well, Monaco64 store, with some interesting merchandise. So I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.